Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review of the 2017 horror film, It Comes at Night. Now, I wouldn't necessarily call this a horror film. I personally think this is more of a post-apocalyptic drama with a tinge of horror, more than a straight-up horror movie. But it is considered a part of that genre, so I'm going to label it as such. Although I don't really feel that confident in labeling this as a horror movie. Although there are some really intense, powerful, horrific moments in the movie, it isn't what you'd call a traditional horror film. It was marketed as such, and a lot of people have seen the film and were disappointed by it because it really wasn't anything like the marketing. And normally that would upset me, but I actually liked the movie, so it didn't bother me that much. Now, if the movie sucked, then that's another thing that I could add to the bonfire. That's more fuel that I could add to the fire. But I actually didn't mind the movie. I didn't think it was a masterpiece or anything. When I thought about it some more, there was a few more issues that I had with it that brought it down a little bit, but overall, though, I still liked the film, and I thought it was a surprising movie. I liked the trailers, I liked the TV spots for this. Well, not TV spots, I mean the teaser trailer. I liked it. I liked how ambiguous it was. I liked how the horror elements seemed to be more grounded in reality, and that is what you get in the film, except for the dream sequences, which were still well done. The film was directed by Trey Shults. This is his second film that he's done. Before this, he did a movie. Sorry, I'm just moving my microphone around, so you might have heard some feedback there. I apologize. But anyway, Trey Shults is a director who directed a film before called, I believe it was like Krishna or something. It's some drama movie that he did. That was a hit with a lot of critics. This had its premiere at the Overlook Film Festival in Mount Hood, Oregon. Well, that's pretty cool. And it got a theatrical release in June of this year. It was distributed by A24, who distributed films like The Witch, which I was not a fan of at all. The Witch is... It Comes at Night is different for me in terms of how I enjoyed the experience versus The Witch, which is the last A24 horror film that was really highly touted. I felt for the most part this did live up to the hype, except for a few moments here and there, but overall though, like I said many times before in this review already, I liked the movie. I personally thought Trey Shults' direction was phenomenal. This is a guy who really has got it. He's got what it takes to direct in Hollywood with a low budget. This is a guy who has a definite visual flair. He knows how to work around a camera. There were some really great shots in this. I love the way that he brings the house to life in a way that makes the house feel like it itself is a horrific thing. For example, the slow pan down the hallway, the dark hallway to the red door. Really great stuff. Trey Shults is a guy I'm definitely going to keep my eye on in terms of a upcoming director. It's also written by Trey Shults, and I think he could have had another writer. The script's solid for the most part, but I feel that once it gets to its finale, it runs out of steam, and the story really could have used a little bit extra. I think it could have used a little bit more action, a teensy bit more intrigue. I would have appreciated a little bit more of an explanation about what the disease is. There's some highly contagious outbreak that has ravaged the world, and this is taking place after that has occurred, but you don't really know what it is, so I would have preferred... I'm not asking for total non-ambiguity, because I like that a lot of stuff in this is ambiguous and leaves it up to your imagination, but with that kind of thing, I would have liked a little bit more depth to that. That would have been much appreciated. The ending, too, I just didn't really feel like what happened at the end was really necessary. So that really didn't necessarily click as well as it could have. And then with the final shots, I thought it was way too pretentious, and I hate it. The ending itself being bleak and depressing, did not have an issue with it, because unlike most films, this had a consistent tone throughout. It was a very depressing, bleak movie from the get-go. It had this overwhelming sense of dread throughout the running time. So the film ending with a not very happy ending is something that I actually respected, and I did not feel was out of place. What I felt was out of place was this pretentious dream, or maybe it's real, or maybe it's a dream bullshit at the end. That I felt was pretty pretentious and didn't really fit with the whole sort of prevailing sense of dread. But it kind of did a little bit. I mean, in comparison to some other movies, it wasn't as pretentious as it could have been, but it still was pretentious. I mean, it was still one of those that's trying too hard to have an open ending so you can kind of come to your own conclusion. But I would have just preferred if the film just went for it. It's like, okay, you know, if you're going to have a depressing ending, you're going to have a bleak ending for a bleak movie, then just go for it, okay? Don't give me this, could be that, just go for it. And I also felt some of the character development, especially for some of the other supporting characters in the cast, I felt that could have been fleshed out a little bit better in the script. So those are the kind of things that would have made the film great. I felt that this movie is good, but I didn't feel it was a great movie because of those things that I felt were missing from the movie. Now, the film runs about 91 minutes, which it actually goes by fairly quick, although, like I said, because of the story and the way the script is written, it does start to kind of run out of steam around the hour mark or so. It's a very slow burn movie, so it takes a while to get going. Another thing that I felt would have improved the story is if they started the paranoia elements earlier in the movie, instead of waiting till the movie's almost over to start building these paranoia horror elements. These sequences where you have these characters and you don't know which one is infected. I love stuff like that. I love John Carpenter's The Thing. I love that paranoia horror in It Follows. I really feel that they could have had more of that in this movie. And that goes to the screenplay. That lands right at the feet of Trey Edward Shults' script. That's why I feel he could have benefited from having another writer. Features a absolutely spectacular, stellar score by Brian McComber. It has this just somber, really intense, just really atmospheric and moody composition to it. It is a really great score. I love this score. I thought it fit the film like a glove, and it really did elevate the movie in terms of its overall quality. It made a lot of sequences in the movie where there's this slow sort of pan through a dark room or a dark hallway or through the dark woods, and it made those sequences genuinely eerie. And I don't think they would be nearly as effective without the score by Brian McComber. I really think that is probably the most overlooked and underrated aspect of this movie. When I look at other people's reviews of it, I think that some of them have mentioned the score, but I don't really see a lot of people really praising it, and I really do feel it deserves that. It also features some gorgeous cinematography by Drew Daniels, despite the fact that this is such a dark, depressing, bleak movie in a bleak landscape. The cinematography is darkly beautiful and really well shot, and it also fits the film really well. There's this, like I said, there's this dark beauty to it, which really does stand out to me. I also thought the editing was really tight. Trey Shults also edited. I gotta give him a big hand because he directed, he wrote, and he also had a hand in editing this. Matthew Hannum also worked on it as well as an editor. So they both did a great job editing the movie. The movie cost about $2.4 million, which really, honestly, I feel that they got the most out of that really tight budget for this film. There's a lot of practical stuff in this, which is great. They had to work with practical stuff and they had to shoot on an actual location in an actual cabin and all this actual stuff because they didn't have the budget to do CGI. They didn't have the budget to have convincing green screen effects. So they relied upon things that are tangible, that you can touch, that you can feel, and that made the film so much more powerful and so much more effective. And what I mean by practical effects, like there actually are some practical effects of the effects of the disease. So the people who are infected, it actually shows practically what would happen to your skin, all these lesions and stuff that would form, and this black bile or blood that would come out of your mouth. So, as well as some of the other shots in the film where, you know, people get shot or whatever. I think they used blood squibs. I could be wrong. It might have been CGI. But I remember just a lot of practical effects in this movie, which was really nice to see. And the fact that they utilized a real life setting. The film has a really strong cast. You got Joel Edgerton, who delivers, I would have to say, one of the best performances of his career as Paul. He really is, in a lot of ways, this film's anchor. The film focuses on a character named Travis a lot of the time, who is the son of Joel Edgerton's character. Travis is played by Kelvin Harrison Jr., and Kelvin Harrison does a really good job as well as what is in a lot of ways the lead character. Christopher Abbott plays Will, who is Kim's husband and Andrew's father. He's a guy who they end up, I believe, this is a guy that breaks into their house. Joel Edgerton's character Paul ties him up to a tree overnight. He eventually sympathizes with him, and he says, all right, I'll give you some water if you tell me what's going on. Tell me the truth. Don't lie to me. And why did you break into my house? Why are you here? What's going on? And Christopher Abbott's character, Will, he says that, you know, he was trying to look for food and water for his family, and eventually that's what leads to things going really awry, for even more than they are for the family who's living in this cabin in the middle of the woods where the majority of this film takes place. You also have Carmen Ejogo, I don't know if I said her name correctly, as Sarah, who is the wife of Paul, Joel Edgerton. I felt she was fine. That's a character I felt could have been developed more. I didn't really know that much about her other than she was the mother of Travis and the wife of Joel Edgerton's character Paul. I didn't really know that much about all of the female characters really in this, or, you know, Riley Keough, who plays Kim. You also had Griffin Robert Faulkner, who played Andrew, who's Will and Kim's son. He was like a little kid. David Pendleton, who played Bud, Sarah's father, and Travis's grandfather. He was there for a brief bit in the beginning, but he was going through the final stages of whatever the infection was, and he was essentially put to sleep. He was shot in the back of the head and burned in the backyard. And that's how the film starts. It just grabs you right by the throat from the beginning with just unflinching brutality and mortality. It just really just boom, like that. You know you're in for a dark film when you see the opening of this movie, and it's quite effective because imagine putting yourself in the character's shoes. Your father is not only sick, deathly ill, but you have to kill him and then burn his corpse because you're trying to prevent a further spread of whatever your father has. And there's a possibility that because you've been around your father, even though you have you have the masks and everything, and you have all this stuff, you've taken all these precautions, there's still a chance that you could still catch whatever your father had. Just thinking about having to shoot your father in the head or your grandfather in the head is something that is truly terrifying. It really is. It's a deeply human horror. Speaking of horror, I thought this film had some really effective horror moments in it. Now, it wasn't all just a straight-up horror film. Like I said, this is more of a drama. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of dramatic moments in this. This is more of a drama than it is a true horror film. Or, I mean, what really is a true horror film anyway? So, I want to correct myself there. It's more of a drama than it is a straight-up traditional horror film. But it still has some very effective, powerful horror moments in it. One in particular I really loved that really got me and sent a chill down my spine was a scene that's simple, it's subtle, but it's very effective. Travis has a dog, and which is the last remaining vestige that's alive of his grandfather, because it was his grandfather's dog. His dog ends up going into the woods, and his dog's like barking and things like that, and I got a cat meowing in the background, so I'm just imagining what if Olympus was in the place of this dog and the cat just went into the woods and was meowing, and then the meowing stopped. And that's what happens with the dog. The dog goes in the woods, starts barking, bark, and then all of a sudden, barking stops. That is just very chilling to me. And also, you never find out what did it. You don't know what did it, what it was, you have no idea. Just like Travis. Just like Travis, you're left in the dark. You don't know what happened. And for me personally, that is some of the most terrifying stuff. The unknown. The fear of the unknown. The fact that something happened. Something or someone killed the dog, but you don't know who or what did it. And you don't know what it's going to do next. That is very effective horror. And a lot of films nowadays are missing that. I mean, I personally feel that that is more effective. That is truly scarier than any jump scare I've seen in a horror film in the past few years. To me, the shot of a dog going to the woods, barking stops, don't know what happened to it, that is scarier to me than a CGI clown jumping out of a projector screen at your face. That's just how I personally prefer my horror. I like that. And I don't mind jump scares when they're done the right way, but a lot of times I think a lot of horror films lately, they are just throwing out jump scares as a replacement for actually trying or actually making an effort to really be a chilling, eerie experience for an audience. That isn't the kind of stuff that keeps me up at night. The stuff that I see in this film, that's what keeps me up at night. And the movie definitely did leave an undeniable impression on me when it was over. This is a film that has a pretty powerful impact. And even though I have some issues with it, I would have to say I definitely did like it. It's not a film I want to watch over and over again because it's not the type of movie. Also, like I said, it's super depressing and dark and bleak. And this is not a movie that you are entertained by. You endure it. And that's not for everybody. And usually I'm not the biggest fan of those type of films, but there were so many different things in this that I just really liked, from the direction, the cinematography, the editing, the music, the performances by the cast, that it made up for it. I just wish it had a stronger climax. I wish it had a better ending. When it comes to the climax, I'm going to do a little spoiler here. In the ending, Paul has to end up, well, he thinks he has to end up shooting the family that he let into his home. And I don't feel that was very well handled, like I said earlier, and here's why. In the movie, it makes it seem like he had to do it. Like he had to shoot the wife and the kid and the husband, and it doesn't really seem that clear that that's what he absolutely had to do. Yes, they could spread an infection, but honestly, this is something that's spread across the world apparently. So what really are they going to do? Spread an infection that's already been spread that far enough as it is? The Paul's character already took off his mask. If the kid is infected, well then Paul's screwed anyway, so it doesn't really matter because he was exposed to whatever it was that the kid had. I don't see any problem with just letting them go. If they come back, well then you just be prepared for that and take them out. Really, the virus will probably take them out, or the disease will take them out before they find their way back to your house. So I don't really see the motivation or the need for killing the family at the end. And that was supposed to be the big moment at the end, and it just to show what happens when human nature takes over, but it just didn't really feel like that was human nature taking over. It just felt like that wasn't really necessary. Now, if he grabbed a gun and started shooting at him, or the wife started shooting at him, then yes, I could see that. But she was running away, so that doesn't make much sense to me. I think that's what they're trying to do, is make it more shocking, because, oh, they're innocent, they just want to get away, and then you still shoot them. But it just didn't quite click for me personally. And especially when you saw earlier scenes in the film where the only ever time you saw Joel Edgerton's character shoot anybody is in self-defense. And then you have the ending where it's like, is Travis infected? Is it all a dream? Or what, that was an issue too. But for the most part, though, I did like the film. I liked what I saw, and it is a shame, though, about the advertising, because it's a movie that was advertised as this straight-up horror film, and it more than likely did disappoint a lot of audiences who were expecting what they saw in the trailer. And I hate it when films do that, but I still like the movie, but I don't like the tactics that they employed for the trailer. Don't lie to your audiences. Just be honest. Just sell your film as it is. Don't sell your film as something that it's not. But anyway, I don't know what else to say about It Comes at Night, except I would recommend it if you can stomach it, if it's something that sounds interesting to you. If not, go ahead and skip it, because it's one of those movies where you either are going to appreciate it or you're not, which is really what any movie is. But it's just one of those films that there's a specific type of audience in mind for this kind of movie, and it's not a crowd pleaser. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind. But I'm glad I saw it, though, and it wasn't nearly as disappointing as I was expecting it to be, considering that I was hearing all these bad reviews, and that it wasn't at all like the trailer, and it was giving me bad flashbacks to The Grey, but it wasn't really the same experience, at least for me personally. But anyway, I don't know what to say, except thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you guys later. See ya.